right, so welcome everyone. My name is Trevor Martin. I'm with Common Cause Ohio, Fair Districts, Ohio. Thank you all for being here tonight and joining us for Drawing the Lines, a forum on community mapping and redistricting in Northeast Ohio. I'm so glad all of you could be here to join us in this important work. We got a lot to cover tonight, so I'm just going to get right into it. Yeah, I tell everyone when we're talking about community mapping, the first thing, communities should be the building blocks of redistricting. We should be the first step in this process. Our input, we should have our say and who represents us, not the other way around. And so we'll be using these community maps that we create, and they'll provide data for the map makers. They'll also, you could use them to submit to hearings, public hearings as testimony. The Ohio Citizens Redistricting Commission is already accepting submissions. We will give you the link to that portal at the end of tonight's session. And then, they will also be used once the map makers do come out with some proposed district maps. We'll be able to use these community maps to evaluate and that way advocate to whether keep those lines or adjust them to keep our communities whole. And then finally, if there does happen to be lawsuits that arise during this process, we could use these community maps to present to the media and courts. So community mapping is really a way for everyday folks to get involved and have your voices heard. These maps not only tell a visual story of your community, but they also gives a narration, a story of common culture, concerns, and counts. Shared history, traditions, language, policy concerns that folks have in common and are top priorities for them. And then finally, the stats and data to back up what we are trying to say. And then the most powerful stories connect these communities with the impact that redistricting has on them. And we'll go through some of those tonight. And we can start sharing those stories right now. Like I said, the Districtor website is a free public tool that anyone can use, and we could make maps and submit those to the committees. And so where does redistricting fit overall in redistricting? I'm sorry, where does community mapping fit in overall redistricting? Well, with these community maps, they'll be shared. We can view each other's maps, and then we'll build coalitions around neighboring community maps where communities have shared interests, larger shared policy concerns. They should build a coalition and work together, where you have many voices, the stronger you are as a coalition. And so using those large coalitions and submitting coalition maps, we will overlay those on proposed district lines, and we'll be able to evaluate and advocate for for fair districts. And so I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Catherine LaCroix, co-president of the League of Women Voters Greater Cleveland. She'll go through some new reforms and legal implications. So, Catherine.
Thank you, Trevor. Next slide, please. So I'm here because sometimes people wonder, what is the relationship between the community map and then the actual legislative districts? So what I want to do is briefly present sort of a very brief summary of the legal standards in the Ohio Constitution that govern how we draw our districts, because we obviously have to comply with the law when we draw our districts, but the law, as we'll see, leaves a lot of discretion to map makers, and that's where the community mapping fits in. So when we draw lines for whether for the State House, the Ohio State House, or for congressional districts, we obviously have to comply with the law. So we have to comply with federal law. Each district has to have roughly the same number of people in it. And we have to be careful about racial considerations under the Equal Protection Clause, the Constitution, and the Voting Rights Act. But in addition, and this is my main focus, we have our state standards, which are different for the state legislative districts, the General Assembly, and for the federal congressional districts. If this helps you, Article 11 of the Ohio Constitution governs the General Assembly. Article 19 governs congressional districts. So I want to go through the different categories and start with the state house districts, the General Assembly districts for our house. Oh, night. So each of these districts has an average of about 117,000 people in it, okay? And that is bigger than most of our suburbs or towns other than big cities like Cleveland, which means, you know, of the 99 house districts, most of them will include more than one town. So this is a map of the house districts in our general area as they look today. And you might begin to see signs of gerrymandering in this picture. And now the next slide, I just picked out one at random that I thought was waving hello to us. So I thought that was a particularly nice shape to choose to remind us that this General Assembly districts are gerrymandered just as the congressional districts are. So what are the general instructions? So this is on the next slide. General instructions in the Ohio Constitution. Next up, here we go. We have to draw the General Assembly. Well, actually, no, it's the Redistricting Commission. That's an error on my part. Shall attempt to draw a district plan that meets these requirements, right? You cannot draw up a plan primarily to favor or disfavor a political party. The second long verbiage is what we call representational fairness. It boils down to if we are slightly more Republican in this state than we are Democrat, we should have slightly more Republican districts than Democratic districts, but not way over. It ought to be proportional, correspond closely to the statewide preferences of the voters of Ohio. And the third requirement is that General Assembly districts have to be compact. So those are general requirements for all districts, state house and state senate. Next up slide is just, I found this impossible to summarize in a way other than saying there are requirements for drawing the house districts that limit the way we can split cities, counties, and townships. In other words, the new reforms do try to keep communities together. However, next up, we look at the map that we started out with. You can conclude pretty quickly as you look at it and as you consider the history of all of this. Most of the house districts in Ohio, and certainly a lot of the ones in our area, fail the test of the new standards. Remember, these were drawn in 2011 before the reform. So they were drawn to ensure victory by a designated party. The overall plan was designed to maximize Republican control of the state house. There are splits of municipalities and townships, and a lot of these districts are not compact. So that tells us that we will be redrawing our Ohio House districts. Now, moving on to the Ohio Senate, a Senate district is made up of 3 contiguous House districts. A state Senate district has about 349,000 people in it, and there are 33 Senate districts. So we learn that the standards governing redrawing the Senate districts, number one, the building block will be House districts, so all the House district requirements apply. But then the big question is with the Senate districts, once you've drawn your House districts, which 3 will you put together to make a Senate district? And our next slide shows an example of a current Senate district. held by Senator Dolan. Well, if we go back up, there we go. So this is Senator Matt Dolan's district today. It includes 3 House districts, 6, 7, and 16. And if you can see the whole thing, and then Trevor, the next slide does help a little bit, I think, because it shows the 3. I broke them apart, like which 3 districts are they? Here they are. And you can see that there are some issues with this under the standards I was just describing. Number 1, it is drawn in a way to maximize the likelihood that a particular party candidate will win this district. And number 2, it is not compact. It is this sort of sweeping crescent around Cleveland. So our Senate districts will also have to be redrawn, many of them, because they fail the new standards in our 2015 General Assembly redistricting reform. Turning to Congress, and I'll try to speed this up. We're all familiar with this map, our current congressional districts, and the particular mess that is made of the Northeast Ohio area with particularly complex patterns of drawing, dividing us up. The next slide zooms in on our area a little bit, and we'll credit Rich Exner of Cleveland.com and Ken Marshall of the Plain Dealer for producing this, which the main point of it is, it's a bigger picture of how carefully drawn these districts were to pack Democrats into Democratic districts and then take remaining Democrats and sort of submerge them into districts that meandered out into rural areas. But the other thing is, only 16 congressional districts in this whole state, but we've got portions of 7 of them in our area in service of this slicing and dicing. So the congressional districts are going to have to be redrawn. Well, number 1, there are 16 of them now. We'll only have 15. So we're going to have to redraw them. And we have our new state standards. So next slide. The new state standards are similar to the ones for the Ohio General Assembly, but a little different. Basically, these are traditional redistricting principles, nonpartisan redistricting principles. Don't split counties, include each district must include at least 1 whole county if possible. Keep the districts compact, keep municipalities together to the extent possible. And then the next slide, I think I probably should have omitted because we all agreed it was hard to read, but here's the thing. We can't split Cleveland. And for those who like legislative language, here it is. In a county contains a population that exceeds a congressional district. 750,000 people are in a congressional district. Cuyahoga County is 1.2 million. So county, you'll have more than 1 congressional district in Cuyahoga County. But within that, in that county, because Cleveland is larger than 100,000 and less than 750,000, it cannot be split. So that's the main, for those who like language, here it is. But the next slide summarizes, without all that language, what happens. And I apologize to our friends here from Summit and Portage and Medina and everyone. I did focus on Cleveland. It's my weakness. It's where I'm based. So I apologize, but use it as an example, okay? So drawing a new congressional map in Cuyahoga County, 750,000 people, more or less, per congressional district. We can't split Cleveland. Current population is about 390,000. We can split Cuyahoga. In fact, we have to because it's over the size of 1 congressional district. We can, in fact, under these standards, split it more than once. But if you have Cleveland, then the additional portions of Cuyahoga in the same district with Cleveland must be contiguous, our standards tell us. So you can't pick little bits here and there on the fringes of Cleveland and stuff them into the congressional district. It has to be a contiguous portion. And then the rest of Cuyahoga will be in a different district. So, so there are other considerations if you go through the map for this process for Summit, Portage, and other counties around. But I just, as I said, focused on Cleveland. But here are my conclusions in a nutshell. Most municipalities in Northeast Ohio are smaller than an Ohio House district, 117,000 people. So when you do a community map and you look around, what's your community? Question you have to ask is, who else should be in my district? Because it'll be people other than just my town. 3 Ohio House districts make a Senate district. Who else should your state senator represent? What other communities around you seem like they belong in your district? We'll have at least one member of Congress whose district will include all of Cleveland, as well as some other part of Cuyahoga County. Which part? Maybe it can include part of another county. What about the rest of Cuyahoga County? You know, who does that get paired up with? So this is where community mapping comes into play. You can do all you like with drawing lines, and all sorts of lines might comply with these standards because there's lots of discretion, but the community mapping is what gives us an argument for why particular communities should be put together in particular districts. Thank you.
All right, sorry, I was on mute. Thank you, Catherine. The thorough and enlightening summary there. Now we're going to take a look at some maps that volunteer map makers have made. We're going to look at Bay Village and Cuyahoga County, and then we'll go down to Summit County. Then we'll go over to Portage and wrap it up with Medina. And so our first presenter for the Bay Village community map in Cuyahoga County is Cynthia White. Cynthia?
Hi, everybody. Okay, yeah, we met, our Bay Village chapter met a small group of us headed by Peter Petto, who knows how to draw the maps. We met and talked about what is Bay Village to us, what are our important connections, what's important within Bay Village and around Bay Village. Bay Village is 1 mile wide and 9 miles long. It hugs along the lake there. Population 15,000. It's on the far western border of the county. There's no industry. Basically, the beating heart of the city is the public school system. There's 4 of them, and everybody goes to the same school together. The whole K through 12 experience, and as well as there's a Catholic parochial school too. So. It's a very white community, 95% white. We looked at, we have, let's see, do you want me to talk about, there's that. So we have all sorts of amenities within the community, but we have to go outside the community for medical services and shopping, basically. There's a little shopping within Bay Village, but not very much. And so that's where we've expanded out to these other communities. In terms of the districts that we're in, our house district, I think, represents us well. Basically, we're looking at our house district. These colored in are all the ones that represent House District 16. Our Senate district, as Catherine already pointed out, snakes around. Yep, there. Excluding, basically that was designed, I think, to be white. It's pretty white and pretty Republican. One of the things that's happened within District 16 is that it's been Republican and Democratic over the 10 years, which is very unusual with the way the lines were drawn. So it's a good reason that that's a good district. I think it's responsive to changing demographics and changing political will. Whereas I think the Senate district has been Republican the whole time. Let's see, what else about that? yeah, so that leaves, I think it's hard when you're covering that much area to really be in touch with things that are happening at one end of it. In terms of US Congress, we're part of the Snake on the Lake. Show that, yeah. So this is the district, I think. It runs from Marcy Captor's house to Dennis Kucinich house. Literally. Okay, so that's really hard to so it's a packed Democratic district. It's been Democrat the whole time, no matter what else has been going on, even though the rest of the state has turned hard Republican. That one stayed Democratic because they planned it that way. So then what do I envision? Well, what I was going to say sounds like it's not possible. I would love to see that our districts would incorporate the whole west side of Cleveland. I think that's a community of interest for most of us. So that would go from the Lakewood border, or actually I would like to see it even from the Cuyahoga River west. So, but it sounds like that's not possible. But we definitely, we have a lot in common with Lakewood and further south to that too. Berea, all those I think could well be included. Because it's really having to keep Cleveland in one piece is gonna hurt the idea of it's such a we live in, I think, the most segregated community in the country, or one of the most segregated communities in the country, and it's held together that way by the way these lines are drawn, I think. But if we have to keep Cleveland together, I don't know that we're going to be able to do anything with redistricting to address that problem. Okay, let's see. I guess that's enough. Is that enough?
Right.
Did I say something about something else?
No, I think we're good. That was, I'm sorry, I wasn't keeping track of time. So, so, but yeah, that's very informative, and I like how you point out that the House representation seems pretty fair here, where you have some communities that are very similar, all represented by the same representative.
Yeah, there's a lot of common interests in the way the districts put together, as well as in addition to any political differences or likenesses.
All right. I think, we will go ahead and switch over to Jackie and Akron.
Okay, and I'm on. Thanks, Trevor. Well, we just met last night, to do our mapping, and we had 17 members at our session last night, and they represented different parts of Akron. I was happy, with the representation. People from Northwest, South Akron, as well as adjacent communities of Bath, Stowe, Talmadge, Greene, and Hudson. And I think we agreed that Hudson relates more to Cleveland for its, additional services than to the Akron area. So yes, you've got that mapped out, very nicely, Trevor. We also discussed Cuyahoga Falls, and even though, they weren't actually, no one from our session was represented from Cuyahoga Falls, there are new amenities that are they've done a lot of redevelopment in Cuyahoga Falls, and people are enjoying the new amenities there. We talked to a great extent about the park system, which really is one of our wonderful assets. Both Cuyahoga Valley National Park and the Summit Metro Parks. I think when I last looked at the statistics for the Metro Parks, it was like 1,400 acres, and they just acquired more land. They do a marvelous job as far as recreational opportunities for the Akron area. We as Trevor notes in his sidebar there, we have good healthcare facilities in Akron. Actually, Cleveland Clinic has an affiliation. Well, they own Akron General now. We have Summa Health. Children's is, has really, put made a competitive edge, with Rainbow in Cleveland. They've just really expanded a lot over the last number of years. So those are great assets. And we have, we're reasonably supported by transportation with 77 coming through our community. And unfortunately, the 76, 77 corridor has also been a good drug corridor for Akron. And, we've been affected by the opiate problem in our community. But I wanted to make mention of the fact that we had several members at our session who were very motivated to attend as a result of the recent District 11 special election of what is this? Oh, Marcia Fudge's seat. So there was a huge amount of money, as the Clevelanders know, spent by the two leading candidates' campaigns, including
Who is that?
I think you may have just been Zoom bombed.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Sorry about that, folks. I think we have an unwelcome guest that I have removed.
Well, thank you. I'll get back to this. So if I can resume, I was simply talking about the fact that the District 11 election really affected a lot of people in the Akron area. District 11 is very gerrymandered. If you can see, it's mainly situated on the east side of Cleveland, and then it meanders its way down through in Summit County, through Richfield, through Bath. Somebody's quick on the button.
Maybe everyone can turn their cameras on so we can see who all is in the room.
Oh, there you go. I'm just wondering if it's all about Summit County and the greater Akron area.
Well, keep going.
Okay, if we can get the map back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, Trevor, I think you might want to do it without the map, but that's just me.
Yeah.
Okay, you think that may be the problem? Well, anyway, I was just saying that
Yeah.
a lot of people received direct mail. They received, there were yard signs everywhere. And of course, we're part of the Cleveland broadcasting area. And so all the TV advertisements that were coming from Cleveland and addressed to, primarily Cleveland audiences all came down here. So when it came down to election day, there was so much confusion. People, young and old, black and white, were going to the polls, and many of them were being turned away because they weren't in the 11th district. And I find it, incredibly sad that for the last 10 years, people have been either represented by we're primarily represented by either Marcia Fudge in the U.S. Congress or Tim Ryan. And for all these years, people have not known who their representatives were. So I passed out a lot of voter guides for the League of Women Voters, and people I spoke to didn't know, who was representing them. So this is the ugly truth of gerrymandering, that it does sow confusion, and people, basically are not represented. And this, I think, is what we really have to avoid. We want to easily understand who represents us. And if I'm from West Akron or you're from South Akron, we want to have a common person representing us. Akron, has a population of about 200,000, and it has a very high poverty level. Although there are areas that are more affluent in general, there's a lot of poverty. 50% of the children in Akron public schools are from, are at the poverty line. So I think that, to a large extent, people felt that we wanted to avoid the confusion that I described at the polls recently. We want to keep our community whole. We want to be able to say, if I'm from Akron, I'm represented by whoever. We also did, get information from these adjacent communities who really do relate to Akron as service, for their healthcare, for their entertainment, for their for their employment to a large extent. I was the lone dissenter in this exercise because I'm originally from Cleveland. I relate to Cleveland for those kinds of services, but everyone poo-pooed me because the majority of them relate to Akron. Anyway, I like the Cleveland Museum, but let's see. Trevor asked the question, have we been fairly represented? I would have to say no, given that in Summit County as a whole, we are carved into 4 U.S. congressional districts. We don't have a single U.S. congressional representative living in our county of 550,000 people. We are, since we've just been plucked, from all different directions. And so I think that we want our community kept together. And we certainly feel that if Summit County were considered as a whole, we would be 550,000 people. And if the new districts are 750, then we might be part of, and this is our consideration, as Catherine pointed out, well, would we relate better to part of Medina or part of, the Portage area? I think that, that is something, for consideration. The other really important thing about Akron is that we have been part of this majority minority district, the 11th district. And, we need to assure that the population of Akron is represented in any future map, that they have a voice. So I think, that is going to be a difficult issue, when a new map is built. As far as our House district, Akron is mostly represented by Amelia Sykes, and she represents us incredibly well. And then our Senate district our representative is Vernon Sykes. So we have the Sykes, the two Sykeses, and I think Akronites feel well represented by both of them. Some of the adjacent counties that are, the adjacent communities that are part of Vernon Sykes district may not think, they're as well represented, but Akron certainly does. I think that's, I think I've said, what I need to say, I think the people that attended our meeting felt very strongly about our community. It's very livable community. It is, it's low. It's not an expensive community in which to live, although, since prices rose in every community in the greater Cleveland, Northeast Ohio area, for people that are just entering the housing and a housing opportunity, they're finding it quite difficult to get into that entry-level home. So anyway, I think I've told you what I need to tell you.
All right, thank you, Jackie. And yeah, a lot going on in Akron. And so you could see the importance of these communities getting together and advocating to stay together. So next we are going to head over to right next door to Portage County with Debbie Barber.
Thank you, Trevor. We've had 2 community mapping sessions, and in total we had about 50 people participate. These were held at the Kent Free Library, and they put a 25-person limit on because of COVID. So I don't know if we would have had more otherwise or not. Portage County is about 162,500 people. So that's not a whole lot of people. The participants in our sessions were primarily from Kent. And then we had a few from Ravenna, Brimfield, Stowe, Aurora. So it was kind of that basic area. And Portage County has a lot of different kinds of populations, really. So I wanted to read a couple of comments that we got from people, because I think they describe what Portage County is about much better than I could. So from a quality of life perspective, our area has high value environmentally with fertile land, access to fresh water, and plenty of opportunities for active lifestyles, while also having close proximity to several metropolitan communities for travel, employment, and cultural activities. Northern Portage County, and there is a League of Women Voters there that's in Aurora, has a strong history of farming, which is heavily emphasized, and higher education. Higher education was probably our main theme, not only from Kent State University, which is the second largest school in the state, but also Hiram College up around Aurora, Northern Portage. There were a lot of people from there. And then the other comment I wanted to read, this county is a microcosm of the United States. There is a gated community in Aurora, which has a reputation as a rich community with one of the best school districts. Then a bit south of that is a small liberal arts college community, and that would be Hiram. There's Kent State with its large state university, very middle class in Streetsboro and Ravenna. Wyndham is one of our poorest areas, which until recently still had apartments that were temporary housing for World War II Ravenna munitions plant employees. This is a true story. Then the southern townships are very rural with some working farms. So there were several written comments about the political divide and irreconcilable differences and concerns that that's not going to get any better. So given that, I will explain to you about our districts. We have 3 congressional districts. So we're kind of divided horizontally, not equally, but horizontally into those 3 areas. Because we're so small and our population is pretty low, District 13, which is mostly the Summit County part, is mostly Summit County. District 14 is connected primarily with Lake County. And then District 16 is mostly Cuyahoga County, but I mean, connected with Cuyahoga County, but because we're so wonderfully gerrymandered, it doesn't really make any sense at all. The conversation trying to figure out how we would divide and how we would identify, primarily, I think if we had to have a consensus, it would be what's demonstrated here, a division straight down the middle, north to south, where the participants felt that probably the west side, the kind of yellow side there, would identify mostly with Akron. Stowe, we do have a spillover into Stowe, that if we were going to be divided into 2, that might make the most sense. And then the other side would go toward, I don't know, Trumbull, Youngstown, Ravenna, or not Ravenna, but going east. We also have been cautioned by Trevor that we may just totally be broken up because we are so small population-wise. And we used to lean Democratic. We've been flipped, but I think it's been done to us. But we are very different in our county. And the people who participate in these kinds of activities are very different from the people who don't. And that's just the way we are. So hopefully we can keep our commonalities together. There was a lot of conversation about our natural resources, the bike and hike trail, Cuyahoga Valley National Park, a lot of activity on the Cuyahoga River. We have a lot of kayakers and canoeists and things like that. We're a really active, outdoorsy group of people. And I think this proposed north-south divide, if we had any say in it, might make the most sense, at least based on the people who participated in the conversation. So I don't know, Trevor, was there anything else you wanted me to mention?
Maybe just how do you feel about the current state district? So, I mean, it seems like the entire county is represented by 1 senator.
Yes,
Um,
one
but
senator,
you,
and then we have two. The senator is Jerry Serino.
Mhm.
And the House districts, we have District 75, which is Gail Pavliga, and District 76, which is mostly connected with Geauga County. That's where the Aurora group is. And I'm sorry, I don't know the name of that representative.
All right. So yeah, I mean, again, it seems like as far as like House representation and Senate representation, pretty decent. They got your, mostly Western half represented together, with Aurora pieced out. You have one senator, that's nice.
Yeah.
So not too many complaints about the state districts. But again, those Congress districts, 3 of them in the county, kind of breaking up the communities. I went to school at Kent State, and everyone talks like Kent Stowe, like kind of it's like it's one community, Um,
And
so
Ravenna, I would add Ravenna to
yeah,
that.
and Ravenna, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, all right. And so finally, we will head over to Medina County, and I'm going to let John Caruso take over the screen here, and let him present that. So, John, if you want to go ahead, take it away.
Okay, there you go. So here's our screen. Mosey, I'll let you go from here.
Okay, good evening, everyone, and thanks for having us from Medina County. I'm going to go over a Medina County map that was prepared by John Caruso with input from citizens from all over Medina County. Medina County is about 428 square miles. As of 2021, there's 181,000 people, and that's a 40% growth rate. So Medina County continues to grow. It is predominantly white with 93.4%, and we are the 5th wealthiest county in the state of Ohio. So if you enlarge the map, John, a little bit so we can see Medina County pretty well, you'll see that the map indicates in the green what's considered the urban area and the blue rural. But really look at the Brunswick-Medina corridor. John, if you'll kind of run up between Brunswick and Medina. Medina County is considered 5% urban and 95% rural. So everything outside of that Brunswick-Medina corridor is considered rural in Medina County. So there's a lot of issues in Medina County related to the people that move in. I'm one of them. People move in and use Medina County, many as a bedroom community versus families who are rooted in the area for generations. And there is a definite difference in the way that people work, live, and play in Medina County. A lot of the people that move in are in sales, services, and manufacturing, and many of them work outside the county. And John, if you kind of make it so we can see a little bit outside the county, you can see that we have points in Cleveland, Akron, and Worcester located on the map also, as well as Canton, because people in Medina County do tend to radiate out into those areas. And you'll see we also have Cuyahoga Valley National Park on our map, like everybody else does, because it's a great resource. So the easy access to I-71 and I-76 makes it easy for people to live in Medina County, but to work, go to medical facilities, shop, outside of Medina County. And so they spend their money outside the county many of the times. But there's families rooted in the area, and they continue to live their lives the way they always have. They're rural people. They often share their lifestyle with others around them. For instance, 4-H is big down here, very big into the county fair. Over 100,000 people went to this year's county fair, where it was only, I think, 80,000 in 2019. There are a lot of farmers markets in Medina County, and many of them are very small and local farmer oriented. Also, there's some things that happen in the rural community that if you don't live here, you don't know about. We have a Halloween hayride down here in Guilford Township. You get a flyer in your mailbox. All the kids along the route are invited to meet at a farmer's house. They pile onto 2 hay wagons for 2.5 hours. They take them around, and then the whole community comes together for a potluck. But you only know if you get the flyer in your mailbox. Then every spring, there's the annual plowing with the draft horses. The farmers, it's totally word of mouth. Either you know or you don't know, or you drive past. And all the farmers meet and they plow a different farmer's field every year. And they will educate you on their draft horses and how they plow. They'll let you try it out. It's a great experience, but you have to live here to know about it. So it is an opportunity for us to work together, but there's also a lot of issues. Zoning is used in Medina County regularly to keep the rural flavor. You have to have 2 to 5 acres in many of the townships in order to purchase land. You can't, they won't allow subdivisions in certain townships. So that really does affect who can afford to buy into a community. So that makes a huge difference. So issues in the area include zoning, residential versus agricultural taxes. There's a lot of environmental concerns as it relates to runoff and farming and pesticides. And these are concerns on both sides. The cost of farmers by following certain regulations, algae blooms in the Chippewa Lake and runoff into the different watersheds, as well as the Nexus pipeline, which isn't necessarily on this map, but it was a huge issue and still is in this area because it pitted neighbor against neighbor, people willing to sell out for big bucks to people that wanted to preserve the community and not have a compressor station and a pipeline in their area. So those are some of the issues we deal with. So how are the current districts serving our community? Well, both Brunswick and Medina County are split in convoluted and arbitrary ways at both the state legislative and the US congressional level. So it dilutes our vote. And they're very gerrymandered district. We're in the 16th and the 7th district. And it places the more rural southern and western Medina County. It places them in with Cuyahoga County, Summit County, and other more urban counties, which kind of creates an issue because the jobs, the economics, the diversity of the communities, and difference in culture, as well as the distances you have to travel, it makes a huge difference in media markets and how you can reach people. So it's very difficult not to have an issue in Medina County where you're not wrestling one against the other, rural versus more urban concerns. So that is an issue. But even issues that people do agree upon, let's face it, they can't be addressed. They can't be addressed because we are gerrymandered to the point that our districts do not flip. We are always red here. And so even things where people do agree, I mean, there's a lot of agreement that we could use some reasonable gun control. There's a lot of studies on this, but our representatives, of course, won't take that issue up because they don't have to listen to us. So in some cases, our lines are so convoluted that if you call your representative, they'll tell you you're not in their district, call the other guy. And it's happened to me several times when I call my state legislative districts, because the lines, as you can see them, as they put them on the map, they're so convoluted that our representatives don't even know who we are representing. So how do we envision that our districts represent our community? Well, Medina is predominantly red with some blue cores in several of its cities. So we don't have the numbers to be split into a district. So we anticipate being kept whole, but if it did, there's a much more natural way than the stair step and convoluted lines that they have used to split Medina County into two. And for the fair districts mapping purposes, Medina is considered Northeast Ohio. And I think many people that live here consider themselves in Northeast Ohio, but there is a large group of people in Medina County that don't, and that don't even identify with Medina City. They prefer to go to Worcester, to Wadsworth, to the more rural areas to do their shopping. So it's hard to know with the way that Medina is characterized officially as being 95% rural, where we might end up on a map, but it might be paired with more rural neighbors, which could make things difficult in some ways and easier in others. But we hope that by doing these community maps, that it will be helpful for the district mappers in making these decisions. Does anyone have any, Trevor, is there anything else you wanted us to say?
Hey, Mosey, I'd like to just chime in maybe and say that it is my belief that one of the ways to break the partisan divide would be to eliminate the gerrymandering. It would force compromise within communities, and then it would force compromise at the state and federal level. So not eliminating gerrymandering breeds the same problems that we have. That's just my opinion. I think we can beat this big divide that we have.
All right. Well, I thank you for that. You know, and yeah, I mean, you have, you know, you brought up a particular interesting conundrum that you have there, that divide between the rural and more urban populations there in the communities, and how like the districts have actually, you know, been drawn to pit your communities against each other.
Correct.
Yeah, so all right, so you know, I want to take this time to thank our presenters for some fantastic maps that they've drawn and getting community members to participate in. These are wonderful, and as I said, they not only tell a you know, they're not only visually appealing, but they tell one heck of a story in each of those counties. I mean, we could see the kind of you know, the problems and issues that arise with our gerrymandered districts here in Ohio. So I thank you for that. And I just maybe want to Michael, did you want to open it up to a few questions? We have some time for some questions, and I'm also going to share my screen here with some links. There we go. All right, so that first link there is the free public mapping tool, www.districter.org. It's, you know, fairly simple to use. You don't have to be a tech whiz. I certainly am not, and I'm training people how to use it. So that second link there is fairdistrict.ohio.org. If you go to the community mapping portion of the website, you'll find links to request a volunteer mapper that will help you map your community. There's also a link on there to get training. I do trainings every Thursday and Saturday morning at 11, and I'll be more than happy to train folks how to use the Districtor tool to create your own map. And then also, please, if you want to get more involved, there also is a link to join the team. We have, you don't have to map communities. You could just get out the word. We have a speakers bureau that Catherine is a big part of and has been doing a great job up in the Cleveland area. And so we need to get the word out and bring more folks in and get, more voices and a stronger, larger coalition. And then finally, that last link there is the submission portal to the Ohio Citizens Redistricting Commission. Now, that is not the redistricting commission that was named by the governor last week that will be doing the actual district drawing. That is a panel of some good governance organizations and former legislators here in Ohio that are going around and taking in public input and testimony and maps from the communities. And they will be putting a report together to hand over to the legislators and the actual redistricting commission. And they, any maps that you include to that portal and testimony, hopefully, they could get that included in their report to the actual district map makers. So with that, please, draw. We need, as we see how important this is, and how messed up our communities are, how divided and fragmented they are, and they're splitting us apart, and making it so, as Mosey said, they don't have to listen to us. They don't have to listen to our concerns because we are so fragmented apart. And so when we, stand together, hopefully we could get some fair maps. So please take some time to submit a community map. And then, with that, if anyone has some dire questions that they would like addressed, now's your time.
Trevor, how long will it take for the census data to be built into District R?
All right, so we did have some news recently that the census data is going to be out a little bit earlier than expected, which is great. They had said that it would be out on August 16th, but now they are saying we will get the census legacy data, which is the raw input, on the 12th. And now the team at Ohio University down in Athens has the contract with the Legislative Services Commission to parse that data and prepare it for actual district drawing. And they have given themselves 2 weeks to get that completed. But we spoke with them, and they're pretty confident that they can get it done before that. They just want to get themselves a couple weeks just to be safe. But we will definitely have that data out before the end of the month, and we will have Districtor updated with the new 2020 information, so we could start drawing districts, pivot from community mapping to actually drawing districts. Because right now, if you go to the software, the algorithm's off because it still has 2010 information in there. So any kind of districts you draw right now, you'd have to go back and edit. But yes, that will be updated by the end of the month, and we'll be ready to start pushing out district maps.
Trevor, will the update on District R include races past 2016?
Yes, we are going to go. I don't know. I don't know if they will get that data out at the same time, but they are going to be doing that as well, going back to 2012, because the legislature and the commission are using another mapping tool called Maptitude, It's a mapping software similar to Districtor, but there's a bunch of them out there. But the state happened to choose the one that you have to pay for. So folks can't use that one unless you have a paid account. So the data that they'll be using to do their partisan indexing will go back to 2012. And what they're doing is focusing on the presidential race, the Senate races, and then the 7 statewide races. So all the electoral information will be statewide races. And like I said, that'll go back to 2012.
Will it include the 2018 Sherrod Brown, Jim Renassi race?
That was the Senate race, yes.
Thank you.
Anything else?
All right, anyone else?
Okay.
All right, well, again, I thank you so much all for being here, taking your time to get involved in community mapping and the overall redistricting process. And again, please check out those links, have some fun making maps, submit those to the event page and to the public submission portal. And then once the committee has set 9 public hearings. Well, they haven't set them yet. They have announced them that they will be having 9 public hearings over the next month. And we will make sure to get those out there when we get the dates. But they will also be opening a web portal page so you could submit maps as well. And when we get that, when they get that up and running, we'll be sure to push that out there and get folks submitting maps to them as well. So thank you again. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for our presenters and those wonderful maps. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Catherine. And thank you again, everybody. And let's go for fair maps.